Welcome to episode 67, the preamble of the Eskimo Empire podcast. Well done, Superfan. Oh, look, there he is. Superfan, yay! And immediately to his left, UT. Hey, how you doing, UT?
Fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you guys for being here.
New jersey.
Absolutely. Oh, yes, the Sewell jersey. Yeah, lean over. Got to see that. That's nice.
And I got it signed as well.
Of course you did, yeah, because you're UT, you get everything. Yeah, exactly. All right, also joining us this evening, I am very excited to be introducing Dave Jamieson is here with us. Yay! This is fantastic. Thank you for being part of the show and coming.
I feel
down
like I'm
here.
in a shrine,
Yeah.
which I guess it is.
That's
but
kind of the idea.
cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. We
Yeah.
do it as a shrine. Exactly. The best part of this is that if you just turn, AD is looking over to make sure that we're all keeping in line.
Okay.
So that's very good. So I just need to. I want to ask you a few things right off the top. So, do you remember your first day with the Eskimos?
Absolutely. It was the signing of and the news conference for David Archer.
Wow.
I was leaving 6:30 Ched, where I was the program director. I helped start that station in its current news talk format. And I was transitioning to joining the Eskimos full time, so I was wrapping up some stuff at Ched. And we were at the time in desperate need of a quarterback, this being 1998. And so David Archer, who had been in Sacramento and San Antonio, he'd been out of the game for a year, and the Eskimos, Hugh Campbell and Tom Higgins, went out and signed David as a free agent. And he'd been in the broadcast booth, so he was making his return, triumphant or otherwise, back to pro football. And so that was my first day, and it was the first news release I wrote. And meeting Dave, who turned out to be terrific, and some people may not agree with me, but he was an outstanding guy, and I learned a ton in my first year because I knew nothing. And there was a guy that'd been in the NFL, he'd been in the World League, and he'd been obviously in the CFL, and so Dave was really, really good to me. And I'll tell you what, I still have the program that he signed for me with him on the cover. It was our opening night program, and it was the nicest note. And I don't keep a lot of stuff, but I kept it just because it meant a great deal to me.
Oh wow, that is fantastic!
Awesome. Yeah.
Holy cow! Now, how does it feel now? Because now, of course, you're on the reporting side of things,
or the opinion side.
The opinion side, exactly. Mm-hmm. And then, what was kind of the biggest challenge in switching over to that side from being right in the middle of it?
Well, here's what I'm comfortable with it now because I've been 3 years at TSN. But you want to be fair but not too gentle, and you don't want to be overly critical. I find just to be spiteful. And I left on good terms. I mean, I wasn't fired. I decided to leave on my own volition. But I still have friends there. And Ed Hervey is a friend. Jason Moss. I remember him coming in. The pride of Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, coming in to the Eskimo offices when he signed. And all of the equipment staff, Dwayne and the group there. So they're friends to me, family to me, and I want them to do well. But again, I'm in a new job, and my employer signs my check. So I've got to balance be smart, be fair, but at the same time, I also I don't want to push it into the personal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. So now Coach Vic was asking, so after this year, in your opinion, is there an honest argument to no East-West Grey Cups?
Yes. I think so.
Okay.
Here's why I say that. And I mean, and I at age 54, I guess I could lapse into the old guy, routine pretty easily. But the CFL has done. I know people make sport of it and make fun of it at times, but the league has been pretty darn good over the years. If you look at it, reimagining itself from U.S. expansion to bringing back Ottawa, not a second time, but a third time, and getting it right. And it's gone through a lot. And I think there was a time in our country's history, and certainly in the league's history, when the idea of an East-West rivalry, a split down the middle, wherever you wanted to call that, wherever Winnipeg was playing that given year, where you could say, you know what, our side of the country's better than the other. And I don't think that resonates today in 2016. like it once did. Now,
true.
hey, we could have a prolonged oil issue as we do, and maybe there'll be something that'll flare up in Quebec. But I think for the most part, it's Canada at its most harmonious, and so I don't think the idea of having the East-West doesn't mean as much. I mean, I'll call it now: the Eskimos are the best team in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
Like they don't have to play any games to prove that, but I know they do. But they're the best team. Okay, so I think now if they wanted to make that move, I think a lot of people would go, okay,
yeah. I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Some of us are traditionalists, right, Mike? I know.
Well, I mean, for me, it started obviously as two different leagues, an East League and a West League, and that's why it started as East versus West.
Yeah.
My only concern is, would it be a problem for a Toronto or a Montreal if you're in the East and you only have to worry about beating one other team to sort of make the playoffs, crossover notwithstanding? At least you have that opportunity to get some more exposure that way. If all of a sudden you are consistently in the bottom three,
Sure.
you're missing the playoffs all the time, is that good for a Toronto or Montreal?
Well, here's the thing with Toronto, and they have issues aplenty there still. New stadium, BMO notwithstanding, which is terrific, but Montreal is in a little bit of a fallow period right now in terms of where that franchise is.
No Calvillo,
and no Calvillo, no Duron Carter. I mean, they've got a bunch of things. So I would, you look at soft spots in the CFL, and I would suggest Montreal, if it isn't one currently, might be one if they have another off year and maybe another one to follow. I mean, they can't become irrelevant in that market because they were always a niche. The Alouettes had carved out a nice little area for themselves with that stadium. They expanded it, 5,000 additional seats. They've had trouble filling it, and then the team's not good. And that is the city, as I'm sure you guys know. It has some other things you can do there.
Just a couple.
And not all of them involve watching the Alouettes. So
they might involve watching.
I know what you're saying, though. I know what you're saying about the idea that, those are two markets that could slip into real irrelevance.
Right. It's happened in Montreal before.
It has. Absolutely.
When they went to the Concord.
Yeah. Right. And so I think that's something that you want to throw in the mix for the discussion, but I don't know. The idea now of rack them up 1 through 9. Let's go.
Okay.
I like that. I like the feel of it.
I like that for a playoff picture myself, but we'll talk about that more on the show for sure. Yeah. All right, now I'm sure you have so many stories, and we're going to get into a whole bunch of them on the pod. But let's start here with just your favorite coach story.
Favorite coach. Well, let's start with Kay Stevenson. Okay. First coach I ever worked. Again, I'm coming into this job. It wasn't like I worked for another franchise. I was making it up as I went. And Marty Knack, the gentleman who filled in, Alan Watt left in '97, and Marty was doing stats, rudimentary though they were back in 1998. I came in to do media relations. The Eskimos didn't have a marketing person. We were the only team in the league that didn't travel a PR person because we didn't have the money, apparently, which is funny, the Eskimos saying that. And so I arrive. The Eskimos didn't used to do news releases. When I got there, Hugh Campbell, other than the David Archer one, we signed a guy who'd been in San Antonio. And Kay, we had a bunch of, we were the Edmonton gold miners that year in '98. So, again, it was a former gold miner, a former Texan, and, a decent off-season signing. And we were close to camp, and I, back in the days when you wrote a release and faxed it, let's let the record show. And I wrote this, and Hugh Campbell said, I'm going to do a bad Hugh Campbell impression. Dave, why did you send that out? And I said, well, it makes news, Hugh. And he goes, well, people show up at Concordia. They'll see he's on the field. I go, no, that's not how this works. And so I had to wear him down over the course of a year. Like, it was like Dwayne Mandrusiak with the white pants, where he would go in and hold them up, and Hugh would go, no, not this year. Well, I just started grinding out press releases saying, like, no one is going, this is how this machine works, Hugh. You feed stuff in, that kid from, Guelph, we're doing a release to make him sound great.
Yeah.
And then maybe someone will then, Joanne Ireland, whoever was writing Cam Cole back then, they too will think he's great. And they will write, and then people, and it begets interest, and so on and so forth. So it was a really odd thing for me to walk into as somebody who'd been in the media to a professional sports team that had zero knowledge. Like, we had the worst media guide in the league. It was terrible. And we're the last.
Mike knows a thing or two about that.
Yeah, and so I what was great though was I was given both the PR communications job and I did the marketing, and it was absolutely a blank slate because Hugh, I mean, I always used to say Hugh struggled with not only the players' names on the jerseys but the numbers. Like, he's like, well, everyone should know that's Warren Moon, shouldn't they? Well, no, Hugh, they need to have numbers, and they need to have names, and they need to,
real old school.
It's okay. It's okay to have stars. It's okay to have stars. It's okay to have profile. But it was just Kay Stevenson, and this is a true story. You know the TV show Coach?
Yeah.
Yes.
Coach. This is not many people know this. Was based on Kay.
No,
really?
And if I was called, and I know this because during Kay's one and only season with the Eskimos, I was called by a producer out of Los Angeles. They were looking for shots of, and again, still images. We didn't have scans. That Dale McMillan, our team photographer, had taken of Kay on the sidelines. And I mean, everything about Kay was starched. His hair, his khakis. I mean, he looked like out of central casting. That's what a head coach looks like.
Wow.
And so, and because I didn't travel in the first year, I drove my own car to Labor Day, the first Labor Day, and sat in the seats.
Really?
Yeah. I sat in the seats.
Did it have a back?
Yeah, I was on the bench seats. And Kay, but I'll remember this. We played, I think it was the Alouettes in '98, and there was a terrible pregame rain, like a downpour where the sewer grates were popping off. The water was blowing up, and Kay was outside, and he was all ready to go, immaculately dressed, having a cigarette when you could smoke at Commonwealth.
Absolutely.
And he was smoking outside the equipment room door, and Joey Moss came up to him. And I don't think Kay quite got Joey.
Okay.
And Joey went up to him and said, and I'm going to do a bad Joey impression, which is probably offensive to some, "You look good, coach." And he looked at Joey like, how did he get in here? And we're like, Kay, he'll outlast you.
That's right.
And a whole bunch of other people just like you. So learn to respect Mr. Moss. But I had so many. I mean, they're just Don Matthews was crazy. He was he would rollerblade. Don, a true story. Don said, "Dave, once football season starts, I don't take a solid dump." And I went, "Okay, coach. So I'll take that as there's a little bit of stress with this gig, is there?" Yeah. Okay.
That didn't make the media guy.
Yeah, and he would rollerblade up and down the hall, and he would. But you were working with a legend, right?
Yeah.
And even though we were awful, we were 6-12, and 3 of those wins came against the Riders that year in '99, and we had a rotating cast of bad quarterbacks. You're working with Don Matthews. So I mean, my baptism by fire was a guy who coached O.J. Simpson and Kay, and then you had Don for 2 years, and then after that it was Higgins. Don's firing is a story I've told a couple of times on TSN, where this is going into the 2001 season, and Don's health isn't great. Okay, and we're in training camp, and we were displaced from the stadium. We were displaced from not that we would have been in the stadium back then, but we had to relocate to the military base. Right. And it was makeshift at best. We were coming off a bad season. We were not a good team. He was showing up late for practices, for training camp sessions for 2 days. We were out on the rugby pitch. And to give you an idea of how bad it was, guys were having to be in to get spatted at 5:30 in the morning. Wow. Because then we had to get on a bus to go from the base to the St. Albert rugby pitch to go and try and do 2 days. Okay? Wow. So we get about a week in. In fact, we're having our first fan day at our only fan day at the Garrison. And I'm out there, and the fans have gathered, and I've got my little son who's not, maybe a year old, with me, and Hugh goes, "Can I see you for a minute?" And I said, "Sure, Hugh. What's and Hugh walked with his hands down the back of his pants, and he had his little ball cap on, khaki, of course. Hugh didn't do colors; he only did beige. And he said, well, "You and I need to take a walk." And okay. And there was a berm on the hill. It was a really bad. It was an unplayable practice field. We only were practiced once at the Garrison. Because we'd shown up a couple of days before the camp to open, and they'd reseeded the field or sodded it, and it was a mess. So we had to relocate to the rugby pitch. Anyhow, Hugh took me over the berm, and he goes, "You're one of 3 people who know this," and I'm one of the 3. I said, "Okay." So it's a small group, is it, Hugh?
It's awesome.
He said, "We're making a coaching change tomorrow." And and over my shoulder, Don is playing for the crowd, being a coach, blowing the whistle, pointing and doing all coach things, right? And I went, okay, now remember, this is 2001. We don't have this crazy email thing, at least to the degree it is now.
Yeah.
The media guide is going to print Monday morning. This is Sunday at about 2:30.
Wow.
And I say, "Okay, Hugh." And he said, "I'll leave it with you." I went, "Okay, appreciate it." So I go back to doing what I do. Nobody knows. Don doesn't know. I'm assuming it's Hugh, maybe Tom Higgins, who is the assistant GM, or maybe it's Hugh's wife, Louise, and me. And we're the only people who know that this change is about to come. So I leave the field. We leave practice. I get in my 87 Corolla with a stick, and I call the printer, whose name, Ron Watominak, who is a hero of mine at Quality Color, who did the media guide, has done them for years. And I said, "Ron, you and I need to meet. We're, that media guide we're going to press send on tomorrow? We need to hit the brakes." He goes, "Well, what's up?" I said, "We're making a coaching change. And take out Don's bio and the photo and put in Tom Higgins. And I'll make a couple of changes, and I will, on hard copy, and I will drive out to the West End, and I'll meet you at the back door of Quality Color, and we'll make this, and no one will know the difference." And 2 days later, we were on the field in Calgary, I think getting our asses handed to us in an exhibition game. It didn't matter. Tom was on the sideline. So they fired Don at the base. Actually, here's the thing. So the Monday morning, Hugh, he said, "I'm going to need you to kind of run some interference for me." I said, "Okay." We'd wrapped up practice, and the media were all converged. They talked to Don, and usual post-practice scrum, and everyone broke off and went their separate ways. And Hugh took a long, slow walk with Don to their respective vehicles and fired him on the field.
Whoa.
Hugh calls me and says, "Dave, you might want," and Hugh is Jack Nicholson. "You're going to need to, how much time do you need?" And I said, "Well, what are we going to do, a news conference?" "Yeah, we're going to be in the officers' mess or cafeteria at the Garrison." So we had about an hour and a half. I called all of the media, because again, no Twitter, no email. Everybody, we need to convene. And we held a news conference, and Brian Hall showed up with Bill Hunter in tow, because they'd been at lunch. And Bill Hunter sat in the front row watching, and I'm sure Bill had seen a few coaches get greased in his day. And Bill had said, like, "Oh, I know this scene." And it was Hugh and Tom sitting at lunchroom tables with a hastily convened news conference with a bunch of players at the back of the room crying, Nealon Green, Doug Peterson, a bunch of other people, and their coach had been fired, and Tom was taking over, and Tom made the mistake the next day of bringing a whistle to practice. Tom hadn't got the memo that players don't do whistles anymore in this day and age, in 2001. And then the Tuesday morning, if my chronology is correct, Hugh Campbell said, "I need to meet with you and Jim Hole." You may know Jim Hole, powerful man in the city, and former board chair and a member of the Eskimo board for many years, and one of the president at one time. And so again, I get up early and meet Hugh and Jim Hole, and into this boardroom at Jim Hole's office walks Don Matthews, and Don has been fired, and they're going through the terms of his separate. And I'm sitting there, like I'm making notes, or at least paying attention, or probably scared shitless. That's probably what I was, actually. I wasn't offering much to the conversation, but Don turned and said, "And I want Dave to be with me." because Don was going to do his own news conference, which we did at the Petroleum Club. He goes, I know it's going to be an inconvenience for you, but can I ask Dave be with me through the course of the day, like to help with the media and just to be kind of hold his hand, not that Don needed hand holding really. And so prior to that, I went out to his place in St. Albert. He'd rented a condo out there, and it was the weirdest thing. I show up at Don's place before the news conference, see if he's doing okay and did he need anything. And we were going through his cupboard, and he was handing me all his Eskimo stuff. Yeah,
Really?
and then we went to the Petroleum Club. We did the news conference, and there were players at the back of the room crying, and it was. I mean, those things I can still sort of see, it happening, and there we were, and the Eskimos took the field a couple of days after Don was fired, and off we went, and had I can't remember what the record was in 01, but pretty good year, decent,
Yeah.
and then we hit our stride for 02 and 03.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That
I mean,
is
there are other
amazing.
coaches things, but those are ones that kind of really leap out. Like wow, I was there for that.
Yeah.
Holy.
Historical.
Yeah.
Yes, very much.
Oh my goodness. Well,
That should
this.
have answered Vic's question.
I think it answers a few questions. Yeah, I would think that's pretty
Vic,
good.
I
Yeah.
will edit myself next time. I'll try and do it in bullet points. I'm not this.
Don't do that.
Vic, I'm not the self-absorbed, but
I'm getting people hanging on to every word.
Oh,
They're loving
okay.
every
No,
minute
well,
of it.
that's very kind.
This has been this is fantastic. I'm just gonna flip. Well, that's just a quick preview of what the show is going to be like this week, because Mr. Jamieson has some amazing stories, and we can't wait to share them all with you guys. Let's just go really quickly here before the end of the Periscope Empire Points update. So Leanne is in first. Jedi Chick has moved into second. Chris Papaduck is in third. Coach Vic is in fourth, and Joe Pritchard is in fifth. Very closely followed by both Ryan Ballantyne from the CFL Horsemen and Chris Curtis. So that's fantastic. What's somebody saying something? Anyway, okay. what happened? I don't know what you're talking about. Congrats again to Cappy D, who is still in the lead. We'll have our full update on the Pick'em on the show, and of course we'll update the Pod League where we're trying to finish in third there. Quickly, again, our CFL Twitter Awards. The voting will open on November the 8th. I'll make sure that I tweet that out so that everyone can help us out with that. We'd appreciate it. And we have a contest this week. I did post it on Twitter earlier. We've got 4 tickets to the Eskimo game against the Argos this coming Saturday. And if you would like a chance to win, just get a toy that you are going to donate to Santa's Anonymous. Take a picture of it, tag us in it, use the hashtag Empire Toys. You will be entered to win. We will pick a winner on Wednesday at about 6 p.m. And we'll make sure that you know beforehand so that I can meet you before the game and get you those tickets. So, kids' toy, Leanne, that's correct. Good Lord. Santa's Anonymous, my favorite charity, Leanne. All right. Hey, yes, please do that. She's just trying to make me blush. She's just trying. I might be just a little right there. Okay, very good. Yeah. All right, show is out Wednesday where we're going to have tons of more stories with Mr. Jamieson and, of course, Superfan and UT. We'll get to catch up with the boys. We're going to have another Eskimo history segment. We'll go over the Esks' big win on the weekend. We will cover the rest of the CFL and, of course, the CFL Pick'em, like I said. And our game preview will be out on Friday, and we are going to... sorry, Dana says hi, UT. Because I'm not saying it fast enough. Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. So we are going to be joined by Lori Bursey, who is the president of the Argos fan club. Did I say that right?
Friends of the Argos.
Friends of the Argos. Perfect. So she will be on the preview this week. And, of course, we've got the big game on Saturday. And of course, get your toys for Santa's Anonymous and be there early because of the 50-50 draw as well. So find us on Twitter at EskEmpirePod. Find us on Facebook, Eskimo Empire Podcast. Join the conversation. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this one on Wednesday. It's going to be fun. Have a great week. We will absolutely talk to you then.